we finished the concluding part of Dr. Partha's presentation of the book, The Technique of Spiritual Life by Clara M. Codd. We are left with the last two chapters, and I will just briefly go through his introduction. Dr. Partha is an English professor in the Balasore Engineering College, and he was instrumental in restarting the Balasore Lodge. He originally belongs from the Cuttack Lodge. He's also a national lecturer. He has almost finished the book, The Technique of Spiritual Life. We are left with the last two chapters, the first title of that the last chapter, second last chapter is The Method, and the last title is The Classic Meditation of the Lord Buddha. So looking forward to a really interesting time. Thank you, Dr. Partha, for enlightening us. Thank you. Please come.
Thank you, sister. So let's start the book. So this is in this last two chapters, Madam Clara Court has given us some specific instructions how to follow the routine of a higher life so that we can transform ourselves and we can really inculcate in ourselves the feelings of the higher life so that we can get self-realization. So in the beginning, she has said that for all the spiritual aspirant, meditation is necessary. Along with meditation, some amount of discipline also is necessary. We can follow certain type of process. We can follow certain type of procedures just to fine-tune ourselves with the higher life. Initially, meditation means it is a deeper concentrations. Depending upon our respective spiritual evolution or our own inner approach, we can select any type of methodology in our meditation so that we can transport ourselves to a higher level. But when we practice steadily, a time comes when automatically the mind ascends to the higher life. It ascends to the higher layers of the consciousness. And at that moment, in the meditative man, for a brief period, transports itself to the higher plane of consciousness. It escapes from this so-called material life to a higher life. And there it transcends all guidelines. And there he really understands and experiences the vibrations, the beauty, the bliss of a higher life. That happens naturally, spontaneously, when steadily, with a deeper seriousness, we pursue meditation. And through meditation, we transcend ourselves to a higher level. But to go to that level, she has prescribed us that we also must have certain things in our everyday life. Otherwise, this spiritual evolution is not going to happen so easily. So what it should be? The first method which she has said is that we can begin our spiritual life with some profound, deep thoughts. We can borrow these thoughts from our respective scriptures or from our different type of study books, which is oftenly spiritual. So we can ponder over those great statements given by already the experienced persons who have already gone through this process. So extensive reading of the spiritual scriptures gives us a lot of motivation, inner inspiration to pursue our inner journey. Before attempting this meditation, we should ponder over these great sayings written in the scriptures by the great beings. So when we deeply ponder over their statements, over their observations. Some extent we can elevate our consciousness to a higher level. And behind the words, what they are trying to communicate, at times we got it. Then we can practice meditation with some deeper and deeper and deeper thought. Initially, meditation, it is nothing but a concentration. This concentration may be on certain images, maybe on certain ideas, maybe on certain type of statements, which gives us an inner call, an inner approach. We can select it depending upon our own circumstances, our own exposure to the spiritual life. And initially, meditation is a concentration. And this concentration, when acted upon again and again, for a long period of time, it gives us a mental calmness, and mind automatically receives the flashes from the higher life. And this happens in a spontaneous manner. So profound study of the spiritual books and constant memorizing of the great statements given by the great spiritual beings always help us to raise our consciousness to a higher level. Another method she has suggested is that development of the character. Character also is necessary. So when we are pursuing the spiritual life, there must be a greater degree of reflection of the spiritual values in our character. Spiritual evolution is not something like just worshipping a god, reading a piece of book, giving a piece of lecture. These all are outside. It is more in my behavior, in my activity, in my thoughts, in my actions, how far I can able to manifest the readings which I have got from the book. So there must be a constant development in the character. And she has said that the character is the sign manual of the soul. Through a character, we can understand how much the soul is cultured one. A cultured soul's character is undoubtedly very much refined. And when we come in contact with such a being, we can feel his aura. We can understand through his words, through his talks, through his behaviors, that he is different from the ordinary person. He may be ordinary in the appearance, but extraordinary in their approach and attitude. So at first, we have to discover our defect. What we need to do to fine-tune our character. I have to understand what are the defects in my character. Whenever a human being is there, how much developed he may be, there may be some blemishes. There may be some amount of defects in his character or in his behavior. And we must be aware about our respective drawbacks in the character. The more we are aware about our own defects, the greater we will be very much ready to correct these defects. And sooner we can correct our own wrongs, the greater will be the spiritual evolution. So we should spend some time in meditation thinking about if something happens which I do not like, how I should respond, how we should behave. We have a natural tendency always just to impose upon ourselves on others. We believe that what I think, what I feel, what I say is correct, and other also should, as I expected them, should respond to it. But this is not so. This is rarely happens. What we need to do, so we need to deeply study our respective characters with a deeper introspection, with a deeper meditation. And we also should be ready that if the things do not happen as I expect it, how I also should react. In fact, we shouldn't react. Reaction is wrong. We always should act, and we can act when the mind is in a meditative concentration. Excuse me, am I audible? Some are chatting that I am not audible. Am
No,
I
yes,
audible?
sir. Yes, you are, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So our virtues and vices, if we really concentrate on our virtues, on we are really concentrating on some of our defects, we can see they are quite interconnected. In fact, our virtues are our vices, they are just the opposite of a particular coin. And here I must be ready that in which way I should respond to others. I must here quote one of the things that has happened to N. Sriram, one of our beloved president. On an occasion when some people started saying anything against him, he usually remained calm. He usually remained in a quite non-responsive condition. When someone asked him that how could you remain calm in such an occasion, then he replied that actually in that point, that man was not saying. Some passion, some anger within him is reacting. And I should be calm. Look at such a control over one's emotions, such a control over one's passions, such a control over one's all you can find emotional body is not a easy one. And a spiritual person must be up to that capacity. He must have greater control over his mind, mostly over his lower mind, because it is the lower mind that always gives us some amount of stimulation just to be reactive. So, but a spiritual person must have a greater eye for that. The third step, which Madam Clara Cott had suggested, that we also, along with meditation, along with study, we also should have a spirit of surrender. Without a spirit of surrender, we cannot move in this path of spirituality. Humbleness is the reflection of a spiritual vision. If you look at the great spiritual being, we'll be astonished to see how they are very much humble, how they are very much gentle, in spite of having that great wisdom, in spite of having some capacity to perform things which we cannot think. So this humbleness is a reflection of the spiritual vision, and it starts when we have a spirit of surrender. Always divine life is within us. The divine love is always surrounding us. The eternal mind is eternally present within me. Even if now we are talking and listening, that great life is present within me. I can connect to that greater life if I have a spirit of surrender. When wholeheartedly I surrender myself at the lotus feet of the God, then the spiritual vision comes out. We have a proverb, we have a sayings in the great Bhagavad Gita that Shraddhavan lavate jnanam tatpare sanjatendriya. That means those who have the greater devotion for Lord, those who have greater spirit of surrender, knowledge come to them. They are capable of getting the spiritual knowledge. And we all know the famous quote of our great Lord, Sri Krishna, that which he has said to Arjuna, that Sharvadharman paritejya mamekang saranam vraja. Leaving everything, surrender to me. I am the ultimate truth. I am the path to eternity. Just if you surrender, then you will get it. We also should have that spirit of surrender, a greater humbleness. And this surrender should not be by the words, should not be by the lips. It must be an inner one. I must understand that my whole life is nothing. It is a life of that eternity. I am just a sparse split of the eternity. If the eternity or if the divinity doesn't want, I cannot exist. I am existing today. I am talking today. I am walking today. It is because of the great spiritual life is present within me. So that must be my inner realization. It must be reflected in my actions, in my character. And then I can really develop in the path of spirituality. So he has said that how can I have a spiritual vision? He has suggested that we can have three different things in life. We can little bit understand that also. So the spiritual life or the God consciousness comes when I feel within my heart that love for others, that compassion for others. In fact, love for others is the another name of God. She has suggested that if you have love for others, if you have compassion for others, then you have the Godhood within you. It means God is love. God also is light. So when you have love, when you have compassion, you also have the vision. And the vision symbolized by the light factor. You have the spiritual light. In fact, light also represents God. Unlike love represents God, light also represents God. And the whole life that we are leading, even during this brief stay on earth, or when I am leaving this body and I am going to the higher consciousness, my whole life is nothing but a life of divine journey. It is the God of love through which we move and through which we have our inner beings. Whenever we do not have that light, whenever we do not have that love, we cannot exist. So the love of God, the love of eternity is an expression of the Godhood within myself. So how can I start this journey? She has said that initially when I am a traveler and when I'm traveling in this path of spirituality, I shouldn't focus myself on the end. Always I shouldn't think that what is the ultimate truth will come to me. How can I attain that great truth? I shouldn't think of my ultimate idea if I have some in my mind, because there is no ultimate end to spirituality. Rather, I should stretch my spiritual vision. I should stretch my spiritual arm. And when I do that, without any expectation, without any type of thought of return, without any type of thought of reward, I have the spiritual vision. And the first response comes from within me. When the divine smiles, automatically the heart within the devotee smiles back. There is an inner call. And in that inner call, we can realize that how I am responding to the divinity which is within me. And that inner relationship with the man and God must be continued throughout the life. And this can be continued when I have the spirit of surrender, when I have the spirit of love, when I am in a very humble way, I have some honest doubt. Unlike a baby, I'm asking the Divine Mother just to reveal her potentiality before me. And the fourth step that she has suggested is the higher life. How can I approach to the higher life? We should constantly focus on our higher self. We know that man is septenary. We have 7 bodies. Out of these 7 bodies, the lower 4 bodies, physical body, etheric body, astral body, or the lower mental, they are the lower one. And if you see where they are lower, they are lower in the sense they are also the reflections of the higher. The higher cannot come down to the physical level. So the higher casts its own shadow. All these bodies are the reflection of the higher. And if I want to go higher, then I must change my vision. Instead of focusing on these bodies, I should focus on my higher self, on my higher bodies. And what are my higher bodies? My higher bodies is Atma, Buddhi, Manasa. Or I can say it is the higher mental or causal or buddhic or at the atmic level. These higher bodies are beyond the latitude of death, are beyond the latitude of time. Neither they have any birth nor they have any death. They are eternally present. Yesterday they were present. Today they are also present. Tomorrow they will be also present. They are forever. They remain in a state of eternity. And constantly, when I invoke myself to this higher level, when I invoke my higher bodies, they get themselves activated. So constantly throughout my life, every day, I must concentrate on my higher bodies. I shouldn't respond to certain type of response which comes from the lower bodies. Lower bodies are fickle. They are constantly subject to time. They constantly create conflict, chaos, and confusion. The greater I withdraw myself to the lower bodies, the greater I will have this spiritual enlightenment. So, this physical body is subject to certain type of disease. It is subject to certain type of conditions, but the higher life is a far above from all the earthly conditions. So, lower is impermanent. It has a death. It is immortal. And it is a reflection of the higher. And as a man, we know that man is actually immortal. The real man is immortal. He is a traveler. He is just traveling through different type of bodies. Through birth and death, we are having our own evolutionary process. So I shouldn't concentrate on those bodies which are impermanent, which are quite mortal. And when I have that, then the golden thread that is within me, that is in my higher manas, that guides me back to my divine self. This mind is the connection between the real and the unreal. It is the manasa that actually connects the bridge between the lower and the higher. So I have to very beautifully channelize my mind power. I have to respond to my higher mind so that I can easily cross this bridge of materialism. I can transport myself from this mortality to immortality. I can really transport myself from this eternal pain to an endless joy. Life on earth is nothing. It is a pain. It is a desert of tedium. It is an oasis of horror. Here, every day we suffer. Every time the crisis and conflict appear, we cannot solve it. We cannot rectify it. The better we can elevate ourselves up to a higher level. And when we go to a higher level, we see, we feel the vibrations of the inner life, how it is calm, how it is quiet, how it is beautiful, how it is rhythmic. It gives us a sense of harmony. We, on a single point, we understand that I am a deathless traveler. I am immortal. And I have every right to achieve this immortality within me. So our each life runs through different type of phases, passive phases and active phases. Passive in the sense when after death I am traveling to higher life, I am traveling to the different type of planes. It is a passive state because there I cannot do anything. I can enjoy the result of my own spiritual development, what I did during my earthly life. And active life means the life that I have on this earth, the life that I have in a particular birth. So through this gate of death, through this gate of heaven, I am constantly birth and death, through this gate of birth and death, constantly I am traveling. And in each travel, I am getting nearer to spirituality. And she also has referred to the Vedantic philosophy of the Sutratma. So within me, I have a Sutratma. And this Atma connects all my birth. Each birth is like a bead. And in the thread of Atma, it becomes a complete garland. And when I have a self-realization. I understand that how the inner being within me is coming to the earth and going back to the heaven, again coming to the earth, going back to the heaven. And when the learnings are over, at that time, I can discover that who am I? So Sutratma science, when we approach our own inner heaven, it shines within us. The faculty of reason develops within us. A sense of discrimination develops within us. We automatically discriminate between the real and the unreal. And when it happens, at that time, our spiritual evolution is getting quickened. Our divine selves are really door to the heaven. The real door to the heaven lies the divine planes or the divine bodies that I am having within me. I have already told you the three higher bodies are our divine bodies. And through these divine bodies, I can approach my inner heaven. The higher self that is within me, the higher self that is within me is not affected by all my personal difficulties, all my sorrows and sufferings, all my diseases and death that happens in the earthly life. My spiritual self remains immune from all earthly development. It is not affected by the so-called sorrows and sufferings, acts and agonies, anxieties, or the some troubles and turmoils do not affect my inner spiritual self. It remains over that. That spiritual self do not participate even my outward life. It always remains in the inner. So greater I establish my connections with this inner spiritual life, the greater I can enjoy the bliss of life. So what is the fourth step for this spiritual realization or the realization of the Godhood? She has suggested another method that is called visualizing the picture of the perfect man, or if possible, we can visualize some symbols, some pictures, some photos of the great beings if I have some access. Every religion have some symbols, have some pictures. Initially, we can take them as our guide. It is difficult for the beginners to think God as having formless. So the God as a sense of abstraction, initially we cannot conceive. The mortal mind cannot conceive that what is formless. We approach everything too far. So better in the beginning, or like beginners like us, we can practice with certain type of images and with certain type of pictures. She has suggested we can have the image of Christ. We can have the image of Lord Krishna. That image evokes within me my higher spiritual life. We can concentrate, while concentrating on these images, we can concentrate the virtues which these greater divine beings once upon a time manifested in their character. When we are concentrating on their virtues, then we also are opening that particular virtue which is latent in my character, and we are activating that. It is easier to think of the divine beings through human forms. And constantly, when I'm thinking of these divine beings, when I'm thinking of their virtues, their divine life, their greater extraordinary character, I am also expressing within me those divine qualities, those divine tendencies. We can make an astral image of ourselves, that how I am meditating at the lotus feet of God. So I can create my own astral image that I am a great, you can find baby just sitting at the lotus feet of the God. Just I am meditating. The astral image, if we have in our mind, that further develops within me my spiritual characters. So my inner concentration should not be any way deviate from the lotus feet of God. I always should concentrate myself that how I am getting nearer to the divinity which is within me. We also can think of masters. The masters are the great rishis. Already they have the greater spiritual realization. If we think of them, if we pray them, if we remember them, if you are reading their words, if you are memorizing them, then that also helping my own spiritual evolution, that is developing within me my own divine qualities. That also we can do. So constantly thinking of masters, constantly visualizing the great spiritual beings, constantly focusing the attention on the divine qualities is another attribute of my spiritual life. That also a devotee or a serious person should do every day. Then what is the last step? The last step is we can fill our aura with the rosy light of love. And we can stretch it as far as we can. So love is the beginning of a spiritual life. Selfless love. The name of this selfless love is often compassion. We should have love and respect for everything, even for the so-called animate and inanimate objects also. In this, from the spiritual sense, that is nothing called inanimate. Everything is animating with spiritual life. The so-called things which science has defined as dead is not a dead. There is a vibration within him. That vibration we are unable to feel, but the vibration is there. So I must have a compassion for every form, for everybody. I must have a selfless love. And when in my own aura, I feel the rosy light of the love, I can easily raise myself to a higher level. So after raising myself to these great lofty regions of the subtle planes of consciousness, Madam Clara also has suggested that how can I come back to my normal life? A spiritual person always is leading a dual life, an inner life and an outer life. So there must be some connections, or there must be some type of methods by which I can come back from that great inner life to my day-to-day life. She has suggested that before coming back to the ordinary life, after doing a deep meditation, we should open our eyes first in a calm and quiet manner. We should take a little bit of pause and rest. And then we should think of my daily activities. And then I can normally return back to my normal life. Just after the meditation or after pondering over this great thought, I shouldn't be very quickly returning to my normal life. It should not be there. I must give a brief pause so that my inner self, what he has learned through this meditation, what he has got through this great spiritual introspection, that must be digested, that must be properly kept, and that should be properly reflected in my day-to-day activities. That can be done if I am doing everything in a planned manner. In no way I must be in a state of panic. So morning meditation is good for us. She has suggested that morning meditation provides a rhythm for the entire day. So if you are meditating in the morning, that gives us an outline that how we can pass the whole day. So it is like a spiritual medicine for us. A single day shouldn't be passed without a prayer. There must be a constant prayer. And what is a prayer? A prayer is a ascent of the lower to the higher. Also, it is a descent of the descent of the higher to the lower. So when I'm praying, I'm raising my consciousness to the higher level, and every prayer is answered. If our prayer is deeper, if it is sincere, then it is definitely answered. And when the prayer is answered, the divinity also is coming lower and is responding to my inner spiritual development. So a descent of the divine and then ascent of the human beings, or the ascent of the divine and the descent of the human beings, or it may be vice versa, that happens through prayer and meditation, weakens my spiritual life. So elevation of mind to the Godhood is the basic approach, the basic purpose of life. The basic purpose is life, how to elevate our mind or our mental approach to that inner state where the great king is sitting within me. So constantly, I should try to elevate my mind to the Godhood which is present within me. A prayer should be accompanied by a deep study and a growing knowledge of oneself from inner understanding. So only a prayer should not be there. A prayer also should be accompanied by deep and profound study. Reading spiritual books constantly, pondering over the spiritual thoughts, that develops within me a greater sincerity. And that sincerity is reflected in my prayer. So when constantly I am studying, constantly I am meditating, at that time, my prayer becomes a vehicle through which I can have the vision of spirituality. Then how study is helping us? Constant study must be there for developing the spiritual intelligence within me. So there must be a constant study. And she also has said, what is the difference between this intelligence and intellectuality? There is a difference. Intellectuality means that simply getting certain type of information, getting certain type of facts. We have a lot of information. We can know a lot of statements from the great spiritual beings. We can memorize certain type of verses, but that is pure intellectuality. This intellectuality is the activity of a lower mind, but intelligence is not there. Intelligence means it is developing the divine faculty which is present in my mind. In fact, intelligence means developing my intuitive capacity. And when I develop my sense of intuition, I can have the great vision of spirituality. So intuition should also be there. And I can develop my intuition constantly if I have prayer, meditation, and deep study, and a greater degree of sincerity. So sincerity, meditation, deep study, constant prayer brings me closer to my intuitive capacity. And when I develop the sense of intuition, I do not require of any knowledge. Just I think about a particular thing, the whole thing is exposed before me. Within a particular second, I can understand a great and greater things, which I cannot understand if I constantly read a book. So developing that great faculty of intuition is another approach of the spiritual evolution. So self-knowledge is the most vital knowledge. Vast majority of the people are there in this world who do not know themselves. So our inner understanding lies in our outer understanding. When I know myself, I know the whole world. So man is the microcosm of this great macrocosm. So when I know who am I understand what is the whole universe. Self-introspection and self-examination must be constantly, regularly practiced if you want to develop this self-knowledge. Initially, there must be a greater degree of inner introspection. Before going to bed, constantly I should re-examine myself that whether I have spent the day as I expected me to spend the day. Is it the right way? So constant inner observation refines my character, develops my vision, develops my spiritual understanding, and it must be selfless. I should have no iota of expectation. If anybody come to spirituality with greater degree of expectation, then definitely at the first stage, he is going to be frustrated. There must not be no expectation. It must be a selfless approach. We should ponder over the greater thoughts but we shouldn't ponder over the future. We shouldn't think of the past. Always, I must be in a state of present. So my mind shouldn't always go, what will happen to me when I get this spiritual vision? No, I should have no reward. I should have no expectation that XYZ will happen to me when the truth will descend. If I have, then I am far away from the truth. Constantly, I must utilize my present. Neither I should go back to the past, nor I should jump to my future. A true spiritual man doesn't have any pride. He has a humbleness, which we have already said. A person, if I have some type of pride, if I have some egoistic approach, then he cannot have the spiritual vision. So constantly we must correct ourselves, because after getting some knowledge, a sense of pride may develop within me. I may feel that I have certain type of special characteristics. And here I must quote, and also the author has really quoted the great lines on the light of path, that before the eyes can see, the eye must be incapable of tears. That means before the eye can have the great divine presence, can discover the truth, the eyes must be unknown about any type of sorrows and sufferings. I shouldn't have a self-piety. If I have a self-piety, I cannot have a spiritual vision. Spiritual vision comes to the person who are actually satisfied. A satisfied person, a person who have a contentment, can walk on the path of spirituality. A frustrated person cannot get this spiritual vision. So I must not have any type of personal sense of injustice. I shouldn't have no inner grievances. I should be completely immune from that. Internally, I must be a satisfied person. I must be a person of contentment. And another line also, before the soul can stand in the presence of the masters, its feet must be washed in the blood of the heart. That means in other words, that my heart must be cleaned. A clean heart is the starting point of the great spiritual expedition. My heart must be clean. My mind, then I can have a clean mind. I must have a pure heart, then I can have a clean mind. Without a pure heart and without a great satisfaction, inner satisfaction, I cannot stand face to face with the truth. So our greatest spiritual assets are our own integrity, and self-illumination is the constant reward that we get in the path of spirituality. In our respective journey, we also get an inner self-illumination. The more we go higher, higher also reveals itself before us. But it is a highly subjective process. This cannot be described with the words. Here, the true seeker understands that how he is responding to the greater self, to the greater presence of the God within his own life. So we must love others, and we should constantly work for the benefit of the others also. Without welfare of the others, without thinking good of the others, I cannot move away. I cannot move. So spiritual movement means, inner spiritual movement means, it is a movement of love. It is a greater approach of the love to everything. I must constantly work that how the people or the animals or the vegetables or any being who is connected with me, how he also can develop. How can I do benefit for them? Spiritual man must be a selfless man. There must not be an iota of selfishness. There must not be an iota of egoism, an iota of pride. So we must not be also afraid of the sorrows and sufferings, pains that may come in our spiritual expedition. Because these sorrows and sufferings are nothing, they are the reminders. They remind us about our defect, about our problem. So a great courageous man can really undertake this spiritual journey. And finally he has said something to us. What is that? He has referred to the great Rishi Ramakrishna Paramahansa. And what he has suggested, that every day I must think that I am a soul. I am not a body. I don't have any name. If I am a body, I have so many diseases. If I have a name, I have so many relationships. I have so many problems. But constantly, if I think that I am a soul, for a brief period, I am in the earth, in a particular body, then I don't have a problem. Then I have a greater inner approach, or the inner being within me is opening up. So we also should always feel that we all are souls and we are passing through this process of evolution. We are not bodies. We don't have any name. We don't have any form. The form is a momentary expression. The name is a false name somebody has given to the body. I am nameless. I am formless. I am a soul, and I am traveling and traveling and traveling. And my travel doesn't end. Even in death, after death also, I am traveling to the higher planes of the consciousness, and this travel is eternal, and this travel is endless, and this particular journey also is ceaseless. The higher I go, the higher I have the spiritual experience. My ultimate end is truth, love, and beauty. Satyam Shivam Sundaram is my birthright, and I will achieve that also. So I have to constantly try to purify my lower. The more I purify my lower, the higher life can reflect upon that. And when the higher life is reflecting in my lower spiritual self, I have already said, my lower also is a reflection of the higher. So when the higher is manifesting through the lower bodies, I have a spiritual transformation, which we all should have. There must be no expectation. There must be no time limit. There must be no sense of inner pride. So I must be calm, quiet, unexpected, a person having no expectation. I am nothing but only a shadow. That also I should feel. I am just a shadow. I am a spark split from the eternity. If I am living today, it is only the wish of the God. If I am breathing today, it is only the wish of the God. If the blood is flowing in my body today, it is also the wish of the God. It is thy will for which I exist. Otherwise, I am nothing but a mere shadow. When the divine mind withdraws me, I will depart. I will not exist. If I am existing, it is because of this love of God. That also should be there. So therefore also we should have inner things, inner principles. And what is the best principles? We should always give, but we shouldn't count the cost. We should always fight, but shouldn't count the wounds. We should always toil, but should not seek the rest. I must be a restless toiler. So if I am giving, I shouldn't count how much I have given. If I am fighting, I should not be vigilant how much wounds I have. So if such a principle I have, I can have this spiritual vision. Only few achieve this spiritual evolution. He has said that spiritual evolution is not everybody's cup of tea. Very few persons can walk through this spiritual life. It means walking on the edge of walking on the edge of a blade. If you have a spiritual traveler, it is very, very difficult. Always we must be adhere to the inner principles. And what is expected from us to continue this spiritual journey? That is persistent effort and a great self-will, or a great willpower. Willpower and persistent effort practically help me to go ahead in this spirituality. Then she has suggested and given us a brief idea in the last chapter that what is the meditation, classic meditation suggested by Lord Buddha. So when a particular disciple came to Lord Buddha and asked him that, oh master, bless me so that I can meditate, I can have the spiritual vision. At that time, Lord Buddha suggested him that we can follow this path. What is this path? First of all, you must have the meditation of love. And what is this meditation of love? Meditation of love means you must have compassion for others. So before you undertake this spiritual journey, your heart must feel for others. Your heart must throb with a spirit of compassion. And the more you have this feeling of love, so you can transport yourself to another life or to another plane. Then you have the meditation of piety. And what is the meditation of piety? That means constantly thinking good of others. When constantly you think the good of others, the more you can go ahead. You have no secret, you have no selfish approach. Your life must be an open book for others. And in your every day, in your every life, in your every act, in your every thought, in your every behavior, that welfare for others must be reflected. Then you have the meditation of the joy. What is the meditation of the joy? When you do not have any expectation, when you are completely a selfless person, then the joy shines within you. You are in a state of ananda. You are in a state of bliss. So that meditation of the joy also you should go through. Then you ultimately have the meditation of the serenity. What is a meditation of serenity? Raising over all these are the life and getting the vision of spirituality that automatically comes to us when we have the other things with me. So in a state of stillness, when the heart is still, when the mind is still, when I have calm and quietness within me, and in that moment, the God which is sitting within me, the great monarch which is ruling in my inner beings, comes. And when he comes, the entire drama of the material life comes to an end. I can really understand what is truth. And at that time, I transport myself to another world and I have these self realizations. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Here, the book has come to an end. Thanks for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Partha. Yes, it
Thank
was.
you.
Yes, if anybody would like to ask anything or share anything, please come forward. The last chapter is about the 4 Brahma Viharas. She has not used that word Brahma Viharas. So that we know.
Jayashree, madam wants some question.
Yes, ma'am. Jayashree, ma'am.
I heard half, and because it was not audible, and the other half I heard about the spiritual life, that you should concentrate on your this thing and have compassion. This compassion, every religion, certain things, every religion teaches, whether it's Christian or whether it's Hindu or whether anyone. Everybody has the same thing about to love. So that means the heart chakra should open, I think. Isn't it? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. In the previous chapter, we also have said that how the different type of chakras also respond to our spiritual evolution. When the heart chakra, that is called anahata, when these chakras of the anahata is opening up, we have this compassion from others. That is also helping us.
Yes. So to open the heart chakra, we have to serve people, isn't it?
And that's true. We must have a selfless approach to life. Always, constantly, we should think good of others. That helped me to open my heart chakra.
Yeah, but if there are so many negative people who come your way, then what should you do?
Do not respond to their negativity. We should always act. We shouldn't react. So people will be negative, no doubt, but we shouldn't respond to that. And when you do not respond, the negativity do not affect us also.
No, it may not affect us, but by not responding, they are being affected.
It depends upon them what actually they are trying to take. So we cannot have control over others. I can have my own self-control. So when I do not respond to their negative feelings, negative vibrations, I am not affected. And at the same time, I also suggest them, I can also tell them that you shouldn't behave or you shouldn't think of this way. It depends upon them to what extent they are accepting my suggestion. If they are quite okay, they will definitely respond. If they are not responding, also I shouldn't uh, say something. Rather, I should be calm and quiet because I don't have control over others.
Yes, you are right.
Anybody else wants to say something? Dr. Partha, just curiosity, how many times did you have to read this book to sort of absorb it?
2 times. First, I go through the book. Then when I am giving this talk, second time I go through the book. But one thing is that mostly what is written in the book, already I have read it on other books. So my first reading is very quick one. The second reading, I started chewing each and every words. But honestly, I can say that what Madam Clara has written here, previously also I have read similar books. So it helps me to go through the books. That's all.
A beginner like me, which book should I read?
We all are beginners, ma'am. We all are beginners. I think you should also read this book. This is also for the beginners. We all are beginners. We have, I don't feel that anybody have gone to a higher life. We all are like babies crying for light. And I think this book is a good one. You can pick up with this book also.
Ma'am, like what you asked, how to deal with negative people,
Yes.
it's not that people are negative. It is our response that is negative. So if we, or our reaction rather, that is negative. So if we change our reaction to response, there's a difference, reaction and response, which Dr. Partha mentioned, which is that it's, you're now responding to them from a more higher level where you say that, okay, you and I have been in many births together. In some past birth, I've done you some wrong. So this birth, even though I'm not doing anything wrong to you, you are being negative to me. You are hurting me. So I have to be the bigger person and find a way to reach balance where I am not exchanging any more of this angry exchange between us. I am stopping. You may still give me, I'll accept it. It will not come to me if I don't actually give back anything. It'll just stay and vanish. Actually, that's what happens if you're just aware of somebody's negative. But it is hard, and that is why we take births again and again, because we have to learn how to deal with that without anger, without any kind of revenge. So it's not at all easy, and I think all of us have, what you're saying is happening to every one of us all the time. It's not that it's easy. So these are aspects of our life. Actually, the spiritual life becomes easier and easier as you start resolving your relationships. If in every relationship you are able to do what is called the dharma in that relationship, dharma means the right thing, the duty or the right thing, which is the dharma of a wife, the dharma of a mother, the dharma of a friend, dharma of a neighbor, whatever it is. So you bring yourself to a certain balanced state in everything. Then you'll find that that is your lower self. Then you have created a certain platform for meditation where your inner self is calmer. And then the door opens to a higher self, that view of your higher self. Actually, in theosophy, like when we talk of higher self, many NDs, near-death experiences, people see a very large light or bright light. In theosophy, we understand that bright light to be our own self, our higher self, which we see for the first time after death. So in meditation, our aim is to see that light while we are alive, to see our own higher life or higher self and connect with it. while we are alive. So that is the whole work of this spiritual life. How to do it. So first initial steps is what you are saying. Once you have identified that these negative, it's a very good thing. You're aware. That awareness is good. Now the next step is how to get over. Then the next step is practicing that, and then the next step is when meditation starts showing some effect for you. So it's time taking.
Yeah. But we still have soon.
Anybody wants to share something else?
Yeah.
Sushma ji.
हेलो
थैंक्स
हाँ विमल जी, आपने बहुत अच्छी तरह से समझाया। मुझे राधा जी की एक बात याद आ रही थी। राधा जी ने स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ के लिए टॉयनबी का उदाहरण दिया था। टॉयनबी जो फिलोसफर थे, उन्होंने कहा कि हमारी लाइफ में चैलेंजेस आते हैं, हम चैलेंजेस को रिस्पॉन्ड करें। जब हम रिस्पॉन्ड करते हैं तो हमारी ग्रोथ होती है, और उसके बाद हम विड्रॉल की स्थिति में आए। जो विड्रॉल यानी उस मेडिटेटिव स्थिति में आए, और फिर उसके बाद फिर एग्जिट करें। तो चैलेंजेस, रिस्पॉन्स, ग्रोथ, फिर उसके बाद विड्रॉल, देन अगेन एग्जिट। जब हम अपने जीवन में सभी वस्तुओं के प्रति, व्यक्ति के प्रति, जीव जगत के प्रति, घटनाओं के प्रति ये मेथड अपनाएंगे, आपने बहुत अच्छी तरह से समझाया, उसी बात को मैं रिपीट कर रही हूँ, तब हमारी जो स्पिरिचुअल ग्रोथ होगी। जब गांधी जी को दक्षिणी अफ्रीका में ट्रेन से उतारा गया था, तो उन्होंने रिएक्ट नहीं करा, उन्होंने रिस्पॉन्ड करा। एंड रिस्पॉन्स करने के लिए समय चाहिए, और इसीलिए गांधी जी मोहनदास करमचंद गांधी से महात्मा गांधी बन गए। तो डोंट रिएक्ट, ऑलवेज रिस्पॉन्ड। इज रिस्पॉन्ड takes time, but the result becomes positive. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So shall we close, sir? Pradeep sir?
या
Yes.
मैं
Yes.
शीतल बात कर रही हूँ। Yes,
Ah,
बस मैं
Shikha.
हार्दिक आभार प्रकट करना चाहती हूँ पार्थ जी को कि
हाँ,
उन्होंने बहुत अच्छी तरह से ये समझाया है, और उन्होंने जो कहा है कि हाँ काफी बुक्स में ये लिखा रहता है, तो हम लोग भी अभी स्टडी ले रहे हैं, द वे ऑफ सेल्फ नॉलेज बाय राधा बर्नियर। तो उसमें भी काफी ये सिमिलरिटीज मुझे लगी। तो सही बात है कि हमने बार बार ऐसे किताबें पढ़ी भी, और ये जो षट संपत्ति है वो तो हमें अपनानी है, बाई यम नियम से अपनानी है, लेकिन वो अपनाए बगैर हमें आगे जाना नहीं, या जा ही नहीं सकते हैं आगे नहीं, ये बात तो सही है। और वही बार बार हमें बताने के लिए पार्थ जी को मैं फिर से आभार प्रकट करती हूँ। और विमल जी, आपने बहुत अच्छा बताया। एक बिगनर के लिए क्या समझना चाहिए, तो सही बात है। बस षट संपत्ति अपने को डेवलप करनी है अपने में, ये बात लगती है मुझे।
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yes, Dr. Pata, thank you very much, and I hope you keep coming for us. Also, I just want to add that tomorrow we are celebrating all over India 22nd January as the birth of the special temple that is being inaugurated. And Maryada Purushottam Ram, essentially that is Maryada. The Maryada is that he maintained equanimity of the balance of life. Where when he was asked to leave the kingdom, he left because he knew the other option was war, was disharmony in the family. So that was Maryada Purushottam Ram. So we honor him tomorrow. So thank you everybody, and we'll end with a closing prayer. Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirtamaya Mrityorma Amritam Tamaya Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you everybody.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everybody.
Bye everyone.